Emma Curtis Hopkins.
The Curtis Hopkins.
Emma Curtis Hopkins this week.
The teacher of teachers.
Spiritual powerhouse.
Faith that was unparalleled.
You either had the consciousness to heal a broken leg, or you probably died.
The glue that holds all these pieces together are our beliefs.
To restore my faith in humanity.
Hello and welcome to Truth Be Told. Thanks for joining in. So this month we're exploring the topic roots. There it is. So what that means is we're really getting back to the roots of New Thought and Science of Mind by exploring some of these really huge spiritual powerhouses. So tonight we are exploring the absolute spiritual giant badass Emma Curtis Hopkins. This woman was well before her time, and honestly, she's probably well before our time now. It's been amazing getting to know a little bit more about her and her teachings and how they have so influenced the New Thought movement. So, buckle up, get ready. Emma Curtis Hopkins, sit back and enjoy Truth Be Told.
Emma Curtis Hopkins, 1849 to 1925, teacher, writer, feminist, mystic, and healer. The teacher of teachers. Definitely not a boring person. Her first name was actually Josephine before she got married. So the story goes, I don't know how does the story go. So the story goes, Emma got called off to the local farm or whatever. Somebody had broken their leg. Now this is miles away from any city. It's the 1800s. Broken leg probably meant death. Emma comes in, sits down with this person with the broken leg, does her healing practitioner work, poof, leg immediately healed. I don't know if that story was true or not. Sounds good. Today, that sounds crazy. But in the late 19th century, what was your choice? You either had the consciousness to heal a broken leg, or you probably died. That is the consciousness of Emma Curtis Hopkins. Emma Curtis Hopkins is considered teacher of teachers. She's responsible for the entire New Thought movement as we know it. She was the teacher of Frank Bingham, who taught Nona Brooks, the founder of Divine Science, Melinda Kramer, the co-founder of Divine Science, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, the founders of Unity, Emily Cady, the author of Lessons in Truth, the cornerstone text of Unity, and of course, Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind. These are the branches of the New Thought movement, and Emma Curtis Hopkins taught every single one of them. She is pretty much responsible for the entire New Thought movement. A student of Mary Baker Eddy, Emma was a Christian Scientist. Emma Curtis Hopkins believed that God, being omnipresent, must also be within life. And apparently this caused this big rift. Eddy believing that God would be separate from matter. There is no intelligence in matter. That's my best Mary Baker Eddy voice, apparently. In reaction to Eddy's authoritarian possessiveness, as it has been deemed, Emma breaks away from Mary Baker Eddy, finds fellow student Mary Plunkett, and they started teaching in Chicago that they deem Christian Science. Funny thing, Mary Baker Eddy also founded a teaching that she earlier claimed to be Christian Science. And it wasn't until the point that Eddy's teaching began to actually gain traction that Emma and Mary Plunkett actually started using this name. They did try reaching out to Mary Baker Eddy about sharing the name Christian Science and were definitely not met with open arms. It became a regular occurrence for Mary Baker Eddy to publicly trash Emma Curtis Hopkins, calling her a fraud, deluding minds using my system, crediting some ignoramus and infidel with teachings that they have stolen from me. Like seriously bashing Emma Curtis Hopkins publicly. The crazy part is, Emma never said a word, just kept on doing her thing, having the faith that what they're doing is good, is something that the world needs, regardless of anyone's perspective on Mary Baker Eddy or what she's saying. Emma and Mary Plunkett continued to receive disaffected students of Mary Baker Eddy. It is said that Mary Baker Eddy's students were students of Mary Baker Eddy, while Emma's students were students of metaphysics. The two continue on to form the Emma Hopkins Church of Christian Science, later deemed the Christian Science Theological Seminary of Chicago, and they ordained hundreds, including women, which at the time was a huge deal, almost unheard of. Well, as time passes by, Emma and Plunkett end up parting ways, and Mary Plunkett ends up leaving with the entire mailing list that the two of them had developed. Emma continues on to be this incredibly successful teacher and healer, had over 50,000 students in her lifetime. It is said that you would literally just change as a person being in her presence. Her consciousness and awareness was so strong and grounded that your awareness shifted just being in the same space as her. Emma is credited with inspiring the mystical side of Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, who prior to this, his teachings were otherwise rather intellectual. And the influence of Emma on Ernest Holmes, on New Thought, on Science of Mind. God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. God is all-knowing, everywhere, and always present. This was the introduction of panentheism to New Thought, this idea that God is within its own creation. God is not separate from any of this. Therefore, everything must be good. God is good. Emma believed we are closer to realizing our true nature when we speak of it as good, more than when we speak of it as God. Expect good in your life.
Love it.
Never thought I'd have to do book reports as part of my adult career.
That was like a very long book report.
Yeah. I also think I've never enjoyed book reports like I have the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
I mean, like, just drop the mic. Emma was the
I know, right?
Mm-hmm. What really stuck out to me and something that I love and I admire it in people that we see around the movement now, like Reverend Peggy for one, but the idea that Mary Baker Eddy just trashing her and no big deal. It's just water off my back. I'm just going to do what I know to do, and I'm just going to be guided by spirit and all that other stuff. It's just noise, and man, that's admirable to be able to not get sucked down into that.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because I don't know if this is true for everybody, but in my mind I have this idea that back in the day everybody was all proper and everything, and that's not a thing you do. So it seems even more shocking to me. Oh, what? Someone from someone from New England, Northeast United States in the 1800s acted out of aside from what was proper. What? Really? Oh my God. But so I knew about that to some degree through all of our studies and everything, but I don't know that I realized the depth of that nonsense until this past week, digging even further into Emma and who she was. And that was bad, crazy, the stuff. I mean, I saw quotes, stuff that Mary Baker Eddy had written publicly about Emma. And it's oh, not only is she saying this was written down and published.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and Emma was so grounded, in this vision. Yeah. It was bump all of that stuff. She was focused on what she knew to be true. And man, did it pay off for her.
Yeah. Yeah. And even just doing some of the research into it, you can just sense the consciousness now, even just thinking about her, even just picking up a book written by her. It's oh, wow, this is totally different. And immediately feel shifted into oh yeah, that's what that's like.
Yeah. I've been rereading her High Mysticism book, and I'm just there are just no words to describe that depth of knowing. And
Yeah.
it comes out in her writing.
Right. Yeah. So anyone watching, if you have not read anything by Emma Curtis Hopkins, do it like now. maybe like 7:40. But yeah, seriously.
Don't try to read it at 10 o'clock though. It's some really intense stuff. Make it earlier in the evening if you're going to read it.
Yeah. But literally life changing.
It is, for sure.
This is Keeping It Real with Emma Curtis Hopkins this week. This is a big one because Emma Curtis Hopkins, as you've heard, was pretty awesome. Really, a faith that was unparalleled at that time, and still, like, this is something that inspires me today to deepen my faith and my belief in, one, this teaching and philosophy that we have control over our lives, and two, to restore my faith in humanity. So I want to use kind of a paraphrase of a quote. Emma Curtis Hopkins said, "If the world will persist in exhibiting before you what you persist in affirming the world is." Another way of saying that is that the world is going to show you exactly how you feel the world is. So the things you tell yourself about the world is what's going to show up. Albert Einstein has a very similar quote that I wouldn't be surprised if it was inspired by this. Albert Einstein's is something along the lines of, the most important question you can ask, or we should ask, is whether this is a friendly or a hostile universe. And essentially, whichever decision you choose that the universe is, that's what it's going to show to you. So this is a big thing to get a hold of and to really lock it in and to own it. As we do that, here's the application. So if you're like me, you probably scroll through the news once a day. You want to be informed. And you take in a lot of negative views about what the world is. What the news chooses to show us is what sells, and it's also what we feel is important to keep us, alert and safe. So it's all the things about terrorist attacks, gun violence, the environment that's collapsing, all these different things. It's a lot of kind of fear coming at us. And if that was your only take on what the world is, it looks like a pretty dismal place. But that's just a small portion, and that's what's shown to us. And so that's the highlights. So here's the application. For everything that you take in that is a little negative, fear-inducing, counter it. You have to find, and this is the thing, is it takes effort. This is not an easy challenge. Well, it is. It's just going to take some effort. So we have to counter it. And the way to do that is, if you do 30 minutes of news, Google Happy News afterwards. Google Good News Network, Daily Goldcast, Soul Pancake. There's some more out there too, but these are four of my favorites. Google those and see what comes up. 30 minutes of negativity and fear-based news. 30 minutes of positivity and happy news, feel-good news. The kind of stories that people say, this restored my faith in humanity. That's what we want to counter it with. That's how we affirm that, yeah, the world has a lot of stuff going on in it that's not great, but there's so much more going on that is great that just doesn't make the news. It's not newsworthy at this point in time. So if you'd like to see the shift in consciousness, we have to affirm to ourselves that the shift in consciousness is occurring, that more people are waking up, more people are choosing love, harmony, peace, compassion, empathy, unity, equity, all these things. We have to believe that that is occurring. And if all we see is the fear-based mainstream media news, it's not going to affirm that for us, and we're not going to go and experience that in our reality. So the more that you can lift up your vibrations, remind yourself, counter that news, you are going to be in a better place. Your belief system will be in a better place. And as we move into this new consciousness and leave the old behind, we'll all be in a better place. That's how it takes, or that's what it's going to take. It takes action. We have to continually feed ourselves. Now, I said it's 30 minutes of regular news, 30 minutes of feel-good news. That's what a lot of teachers say. Balance it equally. Here's the thing, too. The positivity, those high vibration things, they're powerful. So I know from my own personal experience, if I take in the 30 minutes of news that's kind of the regular, the dismal, if I take that in, I can go read one powerful feel-good story and maybe 5 minutes, and it will pretty much make me Forget about all that negativity. And the thing is, like, if that negativity, if there's nothing you can do about it personally, don't let it run your system and program and let it sit there and fester. If it's something that you can take action on or take a small step, whatever that is, then that's great. Do that and counter it. But don't let the things that are completely out of your control bring you down in the muck. The last thing you always want to do, especially like at the end of the day, don't let the muck be what's running through your mind. Finish your day on a positive note. Find one of those stories right before you go to bed. And that's going to be filling your subconscious, reminding yourself that this is a friendly universe and that we are part of it, we are creating it, and as you do that, the world will shift around you, and that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. I don't think I could ever hear that enough. That simple idea you said right in the beginning, that the greatest question we can ask is if this is a friendly universe or a hostile universe. And there's a quote in the Science of Mind textbooks, and it's something like, the law always works, and it works by how you expect it to work, except for when you don't expect it to work, because then it works by the way you expect it not. And it's this whole like Dr. Seuss jumble, but when you break it down, it makes a lot of sense. But it's like, right, it's gonna show up however I think it's gonna show up, and it's probably one of the simplest lessons. And like, even today, I'm like, oh yeah, right, yeah. I literally need to remind myself every day.
Well, yeah, and things that show up at the level of our expectancy. So it's like to constantly be like jacking that level up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like so simple, but not easy. That's one of those things that all the time.
Right.
The truth is simple.
And that's probably the crux of Science of Mind or any new thought philosophy, really, is the gist of it is pretty simple, but maybe not easy. And that's why it does feel like, you can be decades in and still like, oh yeah, did we do this already? Did we do this last week? Did we do this yesterday?
Well, it's just those old like default patterns that we are kind of like, that are poured into us. And so all these things represent something that's so against that natural grain to do that. But like the more we do it, then the more that becomes the default. I think we talked about that before. Like, so like each day we're creating like closer and closer to this new default idea, the way of being.
Yeah, and then it is about expectancy, and I mean, I think the great thing to be able to report is, even though I'm sure this is not true for just me, but for a lot of us, that even though I do need to remind myself on a regular basis, yes, this is a good universe. Yes, like then the expectancy starts to like tap in, and you're like, oh right, yeah, I do expect good things to show up. I do expect the world to show up in a positive way. I do expect things to work out in my favor. I do expect that I am working towards the good, that the good is working towards me, and that there is a daily, moment to moment, greater experience of that good. That's a pretty cool thing.
I mean, like in the words of Reverend Dan Granda, there's always something going on. I can't tell you, like you told me that like so long ago, and that's I say that to myself like probably 5 or 6 times a day. Like there's always something going on, and it's always for my good.
Yeah.
Even though it may
that's
not
be Emma, and that's an Emma thing. Yeah. Oh my God, that is such an Emma thing, right? Like, so really quick story. So to become a minister in Science of Mind, right, you have to become a practitioner, and then there's classes. So there's all these classes and stuff, which is fantastic. And first you have to do a foundations class, which is like the basics of Science of Mind. And then from there, it's usually like, okay, a class on Ernest Holmes stuff or a class on the history kind of stuff or whatever. But like, no, I jumped from Ernest Holmes into this like extensive, in-depth course on Emma Curtis Hopkins. And this was supposed to be like the advanced level class. I don't know how I got in. Literally the second class I ever took in Science of Mind was Emma Curtis Hopkins. And oh my God, was that, I couldn't imagine having taken any other class at that point. It was life-changing to have that in the beginning, like to have that at the point where I was very, I was first starting to change my own thoughts. and Emma comes into the picture, and that was the greatest takeaway that I had, was to constantly remind myself, yes, there is something working behind the scenes in my favor.
Yes.
Oh my God. Yeah, if there's like one lesson I think I could pass on, it's that one.
Well, and it shifts your experience. And for me, it has cultivated this idea of really aggressive curiosity, of like, when you know that there's always something going on, always something moving, to your benefit, then you get really curious about what that is. And you begin to look at all these areas. And then the more you turn your attention to it and are curious about it, then that truth begins to reveal itself in ways that you could never have imagined had you not been looking for it.
I love this comment. Pulling ourselves out of those deep ruts and creating new trails and roads.
Yes.
Yeah, literally. And Chris, you're welcome. I'll say it again. Literally.
Man, I tripped over some ruts before, for sure.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Oh, man.
All right, everybody, we are not done yet. We got more video to come, but we want to take this moment just to say thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for watching. Thanks for support in all the different ways that it comes. So we just want to remind you that, coming up on Thursday night, we do the gathering. If you want to look at this topic for this week, we're going to talk it, have a little discussion around the ideas that we bring up with Emma Curtis Hopkins. Come join us. It's a great conversation, great minds together. And, we learn a little bit more about application, how we can apply this in our lives to reap the benefits that Emma Curtis Hopkins has offered us. We also do Unwind Wednesday meditations. You can sign up at soulevolutioncollaborative.org. We'll send you to a link. It's a live Zoom meditation each week. You can participate by leaving comments. If you're watching live with us on Tuesday nights, leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. If you watch it later, you have any questions or comments, tell us how you're doing. Lots of ways to interact with us. We got more in the works. We are working on phase 3 that we have alluded to at times. So things are getting exciting at Soul Evolution Collaborative. We really, really appreciate all your support, everything that you do for us. So keep coming in. It's a wild ride, and it's only going to get better from here. So thanks for watching. Sit back and enjoy the rest of Truth Be Told.
Emma Curtis Hopkins, totally legit mental, spiritual powerhouse. Like, well before her time, and honestly, she'd be well before our time too. Just next level spiritual stuff. So Emma had this idea that if we look at our experiences, everything that's outpictured in our life, that all of these experiences, everything has been formed by our previous thoughts or previous ways of being. And so that the glue that holds all these pieces together are our beliefs, are those intrinsically held ideas about our experiences, about who we are, about our connection with the divine and our relationship to the universe, our relationship to each other. So all those things act as a glue that kind of holds our present experience in place. So the idea is, if we slowly begin to remove that glue, then all of those pieces from old ideas begin to fall away. And it's in that moment of removing that glue of old beliefs and old ideas, in that moment, then we're able to put together new experiences, new ways of being, new ways of showing up from new ideas and new thinking. But this can only be done when we kind of take away the glue from all of our old beliefs. Now, this reminds me of like a crazy experience I had around a bonfire. Now, granted, I've had a lot of crazy experiences around a bonfire, but I was sitting and kind of in a chair with my foot up against the stones around this fire, having a good time talking, really not paying attention. So by the end of the evening, I went to get out of my seat and to step, and the whole sole of my shoe came off. All the glue had been melted by the heat. And well, you know how it goes. A little duct tape, a little super glue, good as new. But isn't that kind of like how our life is? When we hold these old beliefs, we hold these old ideas up to the heat and warmth of the light, of the truth, then those things that our beliefs that once held our experiences together kind of fall away. And it's in that moment that it creates room and space for new ideas, new beliefs, new ways of living and moving in the world. So I think Emma would say for us right now, and this has been true of like every person that we've talked about, I think Emma would continue this idea, continue this understanding that our beliefs, our thoughts, our experiences shape us in this present moment. And so as we continue to evaluate these things, as we continue to move towards a new way of being, as we continue to grow, because believe it or not, sometimes it's really easy to kind of sit in our current experience, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that creative urge is always stirring in us. It's always stirring us to the next great thing, the next great expansion, the next opening, so that more and more of this good can come in. So the journey and the adventure and the absolute excitement is to really look at those areas where maybe the glue has been a little bit hardened, a little bit got us stuck in some ways, and really to bring those areas to the light, so that's in those times that we can kind of allow those old beliefs to kind of break away. And when we see all these pieces in front of us, then we can choose which pieces serve us, and we can start to build a new experience. And that's an amazing thing about this teaching, is that each day we have the opportunity to strip away the glue and build a new experience. And so this may not seem like a super complex idea, but isn't it challenging to live that each and every day? And so Emma really calls us to be really mindful of kind of the things that have led to our thoughts in this moment, the things that have led up, the experiences that have led up to this moment, and really to take a closer look at ourselves, so that each and every day we're evaluating and reevaluating and implementing and really flowing in this understanding that we can create larger and larger space for that good to come in, for the universe to flow in, for a new experience of who and what we are. So my hat's off to Emma. Amazing. And so what area is this calling you to? What place is a little bit sticky? Where is the glue really hardened? I know I've taken a couple of looks at my own life this week, and to make a really intentional opportunity to breathe into those areas and to strip away the glue.
Undo the glue.
Undo the glue.
Undo the glue. It's another t-shirt.
Oh yeah, remove the glue, something like that.
Yeah. That's go ahead.
You were saying undo the glue, and I said don't sniff the glue, undo the glue, and I realized I was on mute.
Oh, that's funny. It's actually a really good metaphor, the whole like by the campfire thing.
That's happened to me several times, actually.
Well, it's funny because when you started telling it, I was like, oh, the bottoms of your shoes started melting. Like I didn't even think the glue smelled. Like, yeah, I've done that. Like, what's that smell? Oh, it's my shoes.
I'm on fire.
Yeah. No, that metaphor is like amazing, because sometimes we need a little heat, a little pressure applied.
Exactly.
How often is it? It's so easy to think all the bad stuff in our life is, well, how can we say the good is always working for us if these bad things are happening? And sometimes we need a little heat applied to really stuck situations where the glue is, like you said, really hard. It needs some of that heat to melt, right?
When I think if we didn't have some of that resistance, then we wouldn't realize some of the things that no longer serve us. Because if there's no resistance, we just keep on going doing the same thing, because there's really no
Yeah.
Nothing coming up against that. And so I think that's these principles that we teach and that we study. I mean, they really do. They act as kind of that healing element to really take our own experiences up against those things, and it really sheds some light on those areas of inflexibility. I mean, in my own, I can be so determined to do one thing and it's not working, but if I do it enough, maybe it'll work. And we're doing the same thing over and over again, but it doesn't work. And so those are the areas where we need to kind of evaluate our flexibility and those layers that have kind of got us stuck in that same pattern of doing the same old thing over and over again.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, those times of heat, they really do. They are the impetus for change. They let us know. Sometimes, it takes a lot of that pain to get us out of our stubborn selves to make that change. But look at how all the people that have had these major breakthroughs, they usually come right after a really challenging, put your feet to the heat kind of situation. So it's they become a blessing. All those things that are so challenging in hindsight, you're like, wow, I'm glad that happened to me because it got me to see things in a different way.
Yeah.
There's a singer-songwriter in our movement, Bob Sima. He's got a song. In the song, he talks about how the word "something's got to burn if you want to shine." And every time I hear it, it's like, oh yeah. And immediately I have that reaction like, well, always have to? Come on, like what if we didn't have to every time?
Not again.
Yeah. But it's amazing because every time I hear it, I have this like deep like pondering.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, like do we have to, is it every time? If we're these beacons of light, the word light is used quite jargony in our movement a lot of times as like being this, the light of the universe, the absolute perfection, the that which is not formed into matter, just the light, which scientifically, whatever, like it's being used differently for the scientists, but like to be that light, it's like, oh yeah, if we want to shine as that light, we need to strip that shell, whatever that is. You've got to burn. You need something to fuel that flame. I think that's in the song too. But like there needs to be fuel for that light to shine, right? It's like, oh man, so many feelings.
And we got to be willing to let go of those things and offer them up into that.
Yeah.
The flame.
Yeah.
Something that really came up this week for me was just the level of faith and knowing that Emma Curtis Hopkins, the stories that they tell about the healings, like the one, with the broken leg on the farm. As I think as the New Thought movement has progressed and we know these things, we've gotten so dependent on, the amazing advances of Western medical technology that we kind of, it's not as dependent as it was back then to have this other mode of healing. And I admire one, like the idea, that Ernest Holmes always said, where everything is God. So medical technology is part of that. So if you have a headache, take an aspirin. I admire that, but I think and I think we need to interact that with, we use the medical technology, which is great, especially for coming in after there's a problem. And also let's realize how much power we have to prevent the problem in the first place with our right thought, with our way of being, and with the level of faith, exhibited by Emma.
Yeah. Well, that really was the rift between Emma and Eddie was Mary Baker Eddy did not at all believe in medicine back then was very limited anyway, but thought there was no power in medicine. It's not God. God is separate from matter. God is separate from this experience. And you as a person are always divinely perfect. Illness is not even a thing.
Right.
And so we're just going to know the truth. Right. And Emma's whole thing was, no, God is also within all of this. And I believe that's where Holmes got it from, the idea that God is in the prayer and the pill, right? If you got a headache, and pray about it, and if you need to, take an aspirin. Like, what's the difference? And I also hear what you're saying. It's like we don't need to be as dependent on faith because we have the aspirin. So I do play around with those thoughts in my mind. Like, did you have to have that much faith back in the day because there wasn't another alternative? How far does that play out in your life? Have we gotten so comfortable? We don't, like, faith has become like this side project.
Yeah.
It's like you don't have to, right? It's become, I think faith and religion and prayer 150, 200 years ago, whenever, longer, was part of everyone's life because there wasn't, they didn't have the science to understand. They didn't have the medicine to help everybody. It's like, what else do you do? And you have faith in something that this is going to work, to heal, to whatever. And it's like, so we get so much more comfortable. I feel like this is going to start a soapbox, so I'm just going to end it now. Because it's like we've ended up in this billionaire space race, and I feel like somehow that's connected.
Yeah. Well, but it's interesting, like with Emma, just that, sometimes we have this idea, and I say we because sometimes I fall into this too, of like our life and then our spiritual life.
Yeah.
Or this out here, and then this on Sunday or Wednesday or Tuesday night, wherever you're getting your spiritual food. And for Emma, what was interesting was that it was literally woven in every cell of her being. And it could only be done that way. I mean, she only had this power, this vibration, because it literally was who she was. It wasn't, I'm going to put on my spiritual coat today and I'm going to go to the farm and heal someone. It was like literally like she was turned inside out because it was just who she was. And so when you stand really firm in who you are, then there's no other idea that, I could be this person. No, I'm this person. And so she was standing so firmly in this knowing that there was nothing on the peripheral that was speaking against that. Yeah. Or she didn't allow any of that to come in. And I think that's the power. Like, that's like, I don't even know if faith is even the right word for that.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just an indwelling of the universe. I mean, just an indwelling. I don't know.
It does make me realize, and I'll just say me because I don't want to speak for everyone, but it makes me realize, looking at someone like Emma, how much, even in our language and in how we teach something like Science of Mind, how much it's backed by some subtle belief that there is a separation.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, how do we not do that?
Yeah, that's the key. How do we not do that?
How do we not do that? Yeah. Well, we keep doing this, I think.
Yes. It is. I mean, because, I think that with her, it's not like she woke up and it was this. I think it was a constant practicing, constant turning her head to that. And the more we do that, the more we do things like this, the more we are in conversation like our Thursday night gathering, the more that our gaze is turned towards that. And then it just becomes second nature.
Yeah.
That's where we turn. That's what we look at.
And it's not something just for people. It's not for people, just the three of us who have some sort of show that we get to put in front of people. That This is like an everybody.
Yeah.
This is available to everyone on any day, in any moment. That it is, like Chris said earlier, it's simple. It may not be as easy, but it's something we get the opportunity to practice every time we remember over and over and over.
Yeah.
Like, right. It's to integrate this theory, philosophy, whatever, into actual life, into actually changing our lives with this, changing the world with this, changing our thoughts with this. Yeah.
It's real.
It's pretty practical.
It's like next level life. I mean, it really is.
Yeah. We've beaten World 1. We've taken the boss battle.
Yeah,
We're
man.
World 2 now.
World 2.
I saw a good opportunity for some more jargon there when Reverend Ryan said that, it's even beyond faith. It's just that whole idea of not the faith in God, but the faith of God,
Yeah.
making that
Mhm.
kind of switch over. Always room for more jargon, right?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
man.
Let's make it as confusing as possible, please.
Good stuff.
Yeah, definitely good stuff. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for spending this time with us, this quality time together. This is literally like the best job in the world. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. So thank you so much for being here, for tuning in, for playing along with us. And if you are looking for a deeper conversation about this, Chris mentioned a little bit earlier that Thursday nights we get together for the gathering at 7 p.m. Eastern. If you're interested, the link is in our website under events. You can sign up and get a Zoom link to join us. But it is, if this Tuesdays is transformational, Thursdays is epic. It's been amazing. Literally everybody walks away having a life-changing experience is what it feels like just about every time. So definitely check that out. Check out all the great stuff we have going on online on the website. And certainly if you are in a place to support this idea, the Soul Evolution Collaborative, and how it shows up in the world, we are supported by donations from people like you. I know that we stand on the shoulders of giants because of financial support that came before us, and we are simply hoping to pass that on to keep this teaching alive and well in this world. And we thank you so much for any gifts that you are able to give. We greatly appreciate your gifts. They are tax deductible. You can make those online on our website as well. So while you are at the website, certainly check out our email list, sign up for updates. You can check out all our social media, like, subscribe, share, all the good stuff. Press all the buttons, do all the social media things. We greatly appreciate it. And so for some of you, we will see you Thursday. And for everyone else, we will see you next week.